A linear search and a bubble sort are standard methods of solution. 50 numbers are already stored in the array values 1 to 50. So there is an array that I've made a visual representation of that contains 50 elements from 1 till 50, and there are numbers stored in it. And the name of the array is values, starting from index position 1 and ending at index position 50. Write an algorithm in pseudocode to input a number. So the user inputs a number, and that number is stored in the variable called myNumber. And use a linear search to test if that number is stored in the array. We are going to use the linear search algorithm we did earlier to see if the number that the user input is that available in this array. If the number is found in the array, we are going to output the position. For example, 20 has the position 1. Alright, so whatever number the user inputs, we are going to check the position if that is available in the array. If the number is not found in the array, not found is output. So let's go and check how we are going to perform the code for this. So the first thing the question asks us to do is take an input from the user, and we have to store that input into the variable called myNumber. So what keyword are we going to use to take an input number from the user? The keyword that we use is input. Input a number, but we have to store that number that the user inputs into the variable myNumber. This way we took an input from the user and stored it into the variable myNumber. The next step is we have to initialize a variable called found, or any variable you wish to name that is sensible. I want to name it found. I'm going to equate found is equal to 0, or we can say false. Here I'm going to initialize it to false. This means that the number that I'm looking for in this array has not been found yet. Next, now we have to perform our linear search algorithm. Since there are 50 different elements in our array, which means that I have to look for each element one by one, starting from index 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then so on till 50. So I'm not going to do this individually. So I'm going to apply a for loop here. Why am I going to apply a for loop? Because I know that I have to iterate the loop 50 times, because there are 50 elements and I have to search from the 50 elements the number that I want to find. For here we are going to start our loop. I'm going to take a variable index. What does this index store? Index will store the position of that element. For example, this 20 number is stored at first index, 40 is at second index. This index is going to keep a check on the index position of all of my elements. Okay, so how many elements there are? There are 50 elements. So I'm going to start from the position 1 and end till the position 50. We have to start our index from 1 till 50 to search the element that we have to find. Now this loop is going to start from index 1. It is going to start from this position. So it is going to check if that number that the user has given us is that available on first index. If not, then it's going to move to the second, then third, then fourth, till it reaches 50 or till it reaches to the value that we need to find. Okay, So we are going to state a condition here, and how do we do that in pseudocode? It is the keyword if. Now the array name that we have is values, and then brackets, index is equal to my number. Here there is an indentation error in my code. If I'm writing a for loop, the condition should be inside my for loop. So there should be a space between this. This indicates that these statements come inside this for loop. Alright, now we are going to check if this condition is true. Then what we are going to do? Then we have to use the keyword then if this condition is true, and then also comes at a few spaces after this block, because this then comes inside this if block. Alright, so indentation is very important. Now if my condition is true, I am going to update my variable found and change it to true, because the value that I was searching for is now found. So now I can update this variable to true. Alright, now this was just the first iteration. It was checking that the values array first index, is this equal to the input that the user gave me, which was stored in my number. Alright, it just checked the first index. Now I want this loop to check every index of this array. So here I'm just underneath this if I'm going to write next index. This will ensure that your index value is updated. At first it will check the first position, next index is going to update this to second one, and then third, and then fourth, and then so on. Alright, now what if the value that the user had input was not even in the array? So our found variable was never updated, right? Then we have to make another if conditional statement here, that if found remained false, then we have to output to the user that the value the user was searching for was not found. However, if it was found, so I'm going to write an else here. If it was found, I have to just output the position of that element that it was stored on, which means I'm going to output index and end my if statement here. Now we are going to dry run this as well, but first let me end if statement here too. Every if statement should have its end if statement as well. Okay, now we have to go and dry run this so that you can better understand the code. Now let's implement this code by dry running it. For example, input my number. I'm going to store, for example, I want to store 27 in this number. Alright. Okay, now my found is initially false. The index is going to check from starting from 1 till 50. Now the array name values index is first in the first position initially, so the index value is 1. If values 1 is equal to my number, what was stored in my number? It was 27. What is in the values index position? In the first position we have, for example, we have 20 here. Alright, this is values 1. Is this equal to my number? No. Then we don't have to execute this then statement. Then we have to skip this code and then move to next index. Now the index that I'm using is not 1. It is going to change. Since my index was from 1 to 50, now it's going to change its value to 2. Now it's going to check in the second position of the array. Now here you can see that the value 27 is in the 50th position of my array. Now this loop is going to run till it reaches the index 50. If values index 50 is equal to my number, it's going to check that in the 50th position 27 is stored, and in my number 27 is also stored. They both are equal. Then we have to update our variable found is equal to true. And then here you can see that we got the value that we were searching for. It will give me the index position of the value as well, like 50 will be returned to me that in this position your element is available. Now suppose I use another example data. For example, I want to use the number 17. Okay, for example 17 is not even available in this array. Okay, so the user inputs the number 17 and this number is going to be stored in this variable my number. Okay, the found is initially false, and then this index is going to run from first till the last position. Okay, now it's going to check each index of the value starting from the first, second, third, and if it never got the value that we were searching for, then the found will never update. It will remain false because this then will never execute, and then the user will get the output that your number was not found. Okay,